Hello there. I have interrupted my writing session to ask you a question. And that question is, are you struggling with how to raise tension in your story? Well, if so, you are in the right place because I'm going to give you 10 tips for your story, including if you're working on a general fiction as well as a crime fiction story. So, don't quit writing. You want to continually raise the tension in your story because you want to keep your readers engaged. So without further ado, here's how to do just that. Starting with number 1, emotional conflict. Now, this does not necessarily mean your characters have to be in an all-out brawl beating each other to oblivion, but you do need to have your characters wanting different things, or they could misinterpret each other's intentions and actions. So, a story could be something like this. An example of this is your character, a woman, who is planning on throwing a surprise anniversary or birthday party or anything else like that for her husband. Maybe he got a promotion. She wants to reward him really good. In doing this, she is sneaking around, texting his brother or best friend. The husband, who doesn't know about the party, sees a text message on her phone from his friend telling her that everything is set. Oh my God. This makes him think she might be having an affair, and he begins to withdraw emotionally. The wife, seeing her husband withdraw, starts to think he's losing interest in their marriage. So she tries harder and gets even more secretive, which raises his suspicions even further. The conflict grows and grows and grows and grows until the confrontation explodes. And your readers might wonder if they're ever going to patch things up, and if they do, how will they do it? Number 2, scene level suspense. This is for a crime fiction story. You start a scene early, well, you can start any scene early in any fiction, and end it late. This will keep your readers on the edge of their seat, or maybe their eyes glued to the page, wondering what's going to happen next and what happened before. An example of this is show the murder victim dying after having been attacked. They're grabbing their wound, shouting for help, 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 as they lay dying. So, what happened? Were they stabbed, or shot, or something else entirely? Number 3, withhold information. Let the reader know something that the character doesn't, or vice versa. This can create anticipation. For example, you have a character, Elena, who is packing to leave her hometown after a family argument. She keeps checking her phone for a message. So the scene goes like this. Elena has zipped her suitcase. She's had enough of all the drama. One last check on her phone. Still nothing. She held it for a few more seconds before she stuffed it in her pocket. That was their answer. This gives the effect of wondering who she's waiting for a message from and what will happen if they don't message her, or maybe even if they do. You can also then flip to the person who was supposed to message her, and maybe the phone died. Well, damn. I'll charge it and then I'll get back to her. The guy might, or girl, or whoever might be thinking. In a crime fiction story, a detective finds a piece of paper clutched in a victim's hand. He reads the note, but doesn't tell anyone what it said, not even his partner. So the scene will go down something like this. Reed crouched beside the victim and pulled the note from the dead man's fingers. He scanned over the words and pocketed the note. Standing, he looks to his partner, who was talking with someone else, neither of whom saw him pocket the note. We got nada there, dude. So, what was Reed hiding and why? Is he protecting someone? Maybe he's protecting himself. Or maybe he knows a killer and protecting the killer. Remember to have the withheld information pay off later in the story. Kind of like the Chekhov's gun thing, where a gun in the scene has to go off at some point in the future. Number 4, unreliable evidence or witnesses. introduce information that could seem helpful but will lead the protagonist and thus the reader astray. An unreliable witness could be another criminal who has an axe to grind with one or more of the other suspects and directs the cop to a possible suspect, only to reveal that it was the first guy who did the crime. That would be kind of like a red herrings. Other example of this of red herrings is you point to other suspects and away from the ones who really did it. I did a video on red herrings, and you can check out that video in the description. Don't you just love coffee in the morning? Or whenever. Number 5, raise the stakes gradually. This is done by having small issues that snowball until they become a major problem. Kind of like a dripping faucet one day leads to a flood. Or perhaps, maybe, you know those, you go on a website and you have a $20 charge. Something's only going to cost like $9 or $10 or $20, and then only later you didn't read a small print and found out it was an $80 a month payment. How many times have we done that? Oops. But anyway, Emma, in the story, is a divorced single mother who is starting a bakery while raising her daughter. We do the scene progression or whole story progression like this. Starting off, her first batch of cupcakes or muffins gets a bad online review, which she brushes off. And next, a local food blogger makes an unannounced visit to her shop. But her daughter is sick, which distracts her from the baking, and she burns the batch of muffins she was making for the blogger. Well, that was a bad thing because now the blogger writes a scathing review, and she loses her 2 biggest catering clients. And now, even further, her ex-husband is now threatening to file for custody of the child, citing unstable income. Or, her last chance is to enter a bake-off contest, judged by the food blogger. Will she redeem her reputation, or will she go farther down the hole? Crime fiction example would go something like this. Detective Smith is investigating a string of arsons. The first fire destroys an abandoned building. No one is hurt, thankfully. B. The second fire kills a squatter, and they notice that there was a similar MO or signature to both crimes. Next, raising the stakes, the detective, through checking property records, finds out both buildings were owned by the same landlord or slumlord who may have a motivation to burn the buildings for insurance purposes because he also wants to make a more lucrative condo complex, maybe. The next fire, the detective's informant is killed, and this gives personal costs. And finally, the detective, she finds out that the next target is a crowded apartment building, and this is where her estranged sister lives. You can see how each stake that is raised feels like a natural and inevitable momentum push, can't you? Of course you can, because, well, you just can, can't you? Anyway, number 6, make the protagonist vulnerable. Give them personal stakes, like an addiction, or a secret that could ruin their career. Perhaps you have a financier who has embezzled money from a drug dealer and is trying to prevent the criminal from finding out, which would lead to his execution. A much less pleasant execution than he would get in a prison with lethal injection or anything else they do these days. In a crime fiction story, this could be your detective is physically smaller and weaker than the main criminal. And this comes home at the climax when your small 120-pound female detective has lost her gun somehow and she has to go against the larger 250-pound male criminal. How does she win? Number 7, use inner turmoil. Your protagonist doubts their own ability. Perhaps they failed at something in the past and they don't want to go through that again. This could be something like a shy boy is trying to summon up the courage to ask a pretty girl to a movie or just to dance at the high school dance or something along those lines. But he is stricken by other girls, and so many of them have always said no. Does he finally ramp up the tension and courage to ask another girl out? 2 scene examples of this is, let's say a guy, Daniel, is invited to speak at his father's retirement party, but the 2 men have been estranged for years. So we have it like this. Daniel sat at the edge of his bed, shuffling through the index cards. Just keep it light, he whispered to the empty room. Leave the past where it belongs. But his mind kept going back to that night. The yelling and cursing, the slammed door, and the 10 years of silence that followed. Why did he have to speak? Why not his brother or uncle? So you see, that could be bad, couldn't it? In a crime fiction story, a detective has arrested a suspect that fits the profile, but there's something that just doesn't sit right with him. So here's the scene. Detective Lee closed the case file. Even so, the knot in his stomach tightened. But why? Why? Everything lined up. The motive, the timeline, not to mention the fingerprints. But the look on the guy's face was not one of fear or anger about being arrested, but relief, like he wanted to get locked up. Could it be the free food in prison that made the guy want to get arrested? Who knows? Open and shut case, his partner said. Don't overthink things. Detective Lee thought, perhaps, yeah, maybe. Or maybe someone wanted them looking the wrong way, and now the cops have given them the perfect cover. Number 8. Reveal threats early. You do this by showing the villain's power and cruelty right at the start of the story. An example of this could be that your villain has found a turncoat or snitch in his organization, and now they have him on a yacht in the open ocean with not another soul around, as in no other boats to watch him do what he's going to do to his informant. The informant has a cinder block tied around his wrists and another around his ankles. They have him at the edge of the deck, and he's crying, begging for his life. The villain fakes a kick twice before finally sending him into the water. Very cruel and evil man you hope to see get his comeuppance, I bet, don't you? But how will he do it? That could be raising the tension too. Or if you're writing something like a romance, it might not be a physical threat, but maybe the competition. For the heart of the lady is a rich celebrity who has a lot more going for him than the protagonist does. So how can he compete with that? Number 9, the ticking clock, also known as the ticking time bomb. I might do a video specifically on that in the future, but this could be something along the lines of they have 1 week to come up with the money to save the company, or the cops have 1 day to save the victim. This could be anything that your imagination comes up with. Maybe something along the lines like, I thought of this, my imagination came up with this. Maybe time travelers from 400 years from now are trapped in today's timeline. Their time travel device is malfunctioning and they need a part to fix it. But it's not a part that is found in 21st century Earth. And they have to improvise and figure out a solution, kind of like in Star Trek 4 when they needed to recrystallize the dilithium crystals, and they didn't have that they can't do that in the 24th century, but they figured out a possible 21st or 20th century solution, because that happened in 1984, wasn't it? Anyway, or earlier than that. And now they have 3 days to get their time-traveling device fixed, or they're stuck in the past forever. Number 10, escalate the consequences. To do this, you have the cost of failure grow. Something like a missing person will die, or the wrong person gets sent to prison. Now, let's do 2 scenes that ties multiple tips together. A mother preparing to meet her estranged daughter after 20 years can't find the letter she wrote, the letter that her daughter promised to read before meeting. As the dinner reservation time approaches, the mother debates whether to bring it up or act like nothing is wrong. The ticking clock, the dinner, emotional baggage, and fear of rejection raise tension, as you can see. Or, in a crime fiction story, a detective investigates a missing girl. He finds a clue in her room, a ticket stub, but before he can follow up, he's warned off the case by someone higher up. That night, his car is vandalized. Now it's not just about the girl, it's about him. The danger spreads, secrets pile up, and trusty roads. So there you have it. My 10 tips on how to raise the tension in your story. I hope you liked the video and that it helps you with your writing. Have a great day and a great week, and I will see you in 7 days. So long, everybody.